Fantastic. Well, officially welcome to today's masterclass on 3 secrets to managing the juggle of both work and home life without the overwhelm. I'm really looking forward to this masterclass. I ran it for the first time on Tuesday night and we had great fun. And so really looking forward to today's session as well. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Karina O'Brien, and it's great to know you and hopefully spend this 45 minutes to an hour together with you. So to get to know each other a little bit more, I'd love for you to share in the chat where you're from and also how many kids you have. So just jump in on the chat and then that way we can also get to know each other a little bit. So just while people are doing that, I've got 2 kids and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. But yeah, throughout the session today, definitely, if you can, use the chat box. If you've got questions, comments, or even learnings. So the other night, there was actually people collaborating and sharing some of their experiences as well in the chat box. So feel free to use that as your way of engaging with the session. Today is very much about the overwhelm as being a working mum, and also trying to help you actually reduce some of that overwhelm. So I'm actually going to go a little bit smaller with you. I've got some slides I'm going to share. Just have to reduce Mr. Zoom here. Here we are. So as I said, hopefully you can still see me. But yeah, so today's topic is 3 secrets to juggling work and motherhood without the overwhelm. Welcome, Eleanor. She's 2 kids from Melbourne, 4 and 20 months. So I'm sure a number of you have seen this photo that has done the rounds after last weekend. And you've seen here Prince Louis, giving the good old thumb out to mum and whatever, Kate, I think, was actually doing a really good job over the weekend. And it's interesting that some of the commentary that's come out about this of, disciplining the children, that he's not well brought up and things like that. I'm sure they have some of the best resources and tools and support networks as royals around with nannies and the like. But I actually looked at this photo to go, oh, good, it's not just my children and it's not just me. That I'm sure, as much as Kate's out there smiling because she knows, most of the world's looking at her, but it's also for me normalized what being a royal is. And, she is a mum just like the rest of us that has a child that can be a little bit unpredictable at times. I've got a 4-year-old son and I'm sure he would be acting in a very similar way at certain times and probably would not even always be sitting down. So it also goes to show that no matter if you're a princess, you're a royal, or a working mum like we are, that there are things that happen, but also it normalizes it. We're all in it together. We're all in the trenches, and you're definitely not alone in this as well. So what are we going to get out of today? So today, hopefully, it's going to be an engaging experience. Hopefully you're not going to yawn too much, that you have tangible and actionable takeaways. And also you learn some new strategies and tips to helping you thrive, not just survive as a working mum. And life is full of distractions. There's so many around, even I'm sitting at my work desk here. There's so many different things that I could be distracted by. But you know what? Let's control what we can and let go of the rest. And for this moment, also, if you can, take this opportunity to just grab a piece of paper, because I'm also not just going to be talking to you at this session. I also want it to be that there's a number of times where I get you to write down, reflect, or even put into the chat box. But definitely control what you can. And there's so much that we can't control. And look, the last 2.5 years is a great example of that. So how can we have the career and be the mum that we want to be when we don't necessarily always have enough time, money, and resources to support us? And that's what I'm going to show you today. to help you make the ultimate shift from feeling like you are constantly lacking time, feeling guilty 24/7, and torn between your career aspirations and your desire to be with children, to feeling a little more in control, managing all those balls and taming some of that mum guilt. And certainly you'll love this masterclass if you're a professional working mum who is feeling like you're on currently the treadmill at about speed 20 and you can't find that stop button, and that you know that you can have a successful career and be a mum, and that you're not willing to give up, and that you know that solution or some of those tools and tips to help you is just around the corner. And ultimately, you want a partner and village around you that supports you and not only demands from you. You want to be a role model for your children. And that's one of the biggest things that actually, when I survey working mums and speak with people, yes, there is the financial component, there is that self-identity component as well about working. But often it's about as well being a role model, particularly for your children, to show that you can have a career and be a mum, and also what amazing people we are as women. And also you want to have the right support, resources, boundaries, and also mindset with you. So what I'm walking you through today is actually based on the Working Mama Village. It's a community and network that I've developed. And then if you love it, I'd love you to join us, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. So about me, as I said at the start, I'm a mum of 2 boys. I've got an angel baby and also a fur baby. It's a busy house with 2 young boys. I've got my youngest that's almost 16 months, and my oldest has literally just turned 4, and I still have some of the blue fingers, thanks to actually icing his cake almost 2 weeks ago. I have a bachelor's in IT and ITIS, and also a master's in management, and I have over 20 years corporate experience. I'm the host of the Working Mama podcast, which I created at the start of 2020 and have over 70 episodes, and I almost 15,000 downloads. And I'm the creator of the Working Mama Village. In Working Mama, what is it? How does it come about? How's it relevant? Well, it was actually the idea that I came up with when I was about 6 months pregnant, and I was navigating going, how can I do this? How can I be a mum and also have a successful career? I couldn't really look around. I couldn't find any of the tools and support and resources that I was after when I was looking around for a solution. So as they say, sometimes what you can't find, you just build it yourself. And that's exactly what I'm doing with Working Mama. I have a real passion to support women that transitioning from motherhood into having a career, and then helping you thrive as a result. So we do that through community, coaching, and resources, and that you can have harmony between your work and your life. I absolutely love this quote from Annabelle Crabb. And yes, this is from the Wife Drought essay a couple of years ago. The obligation for working mothers is a very precise one. The feeling that one ought to work as if you didn't have children, while raising one's children if you didn't have a job. And I think this is what we're all torn to feel at so many parts and at times. And yes, there is some slow change that's slowly happening. I saw that even today, Energy Australia around equitable superannuation and closing the gap there. But we still have so far to go with the gender pay gap and supporting working mums, and I will acknowledge parents of all levels. And I also have to say that returning from maternity leave is a transition. Everyone, and I returned back to work this year after my second maternity leave, and everyone said, right, when are you returning? And they think that you just return on that particular day, and then you go from being on mat leave to being an employee and a working mum straight away. But I actually will challenge that a little bit. And I really think that the return is actually more of a transition, not only of the emotional pull, there's the physical part and the physical transition as well that happens. And then obviously that time. So it's really, and I think sometimes the better transition that you have can actually set you up a lot better as a working mum. So that's why I'm really passionate about helping women make this transition, as well as then helping them once you're back into the workforce, helping you thrive beyond. And that's really also what today's masterclass is about. And as working mums, we have so many questions at times, and particularly as we're going through this transition. Who am I? How am I going to do this? Can I still do my role? You have imposter syndrome. You have, the questions of who's going to look after my child? Can I have both? Some of the societal and patriarchal systems and questions that will come into us. And even what our, parents and grandparents did is going to often be a little bit different to what we have. So we're going to be challenging sometimes those family norms and the statuses that people have on, and the mental models about what we have as women and also working mums. And certainly it's a roller coaster. It's definitely it can be the highest of highs of emotions. I was like, yes, I've got this, I'm nailing it, I'm doing really well. And almost in an instant flick of a switch, you can feel and just be overcome even with imposter syndrome or mum guilt. And this, the mental load might be getting to you. There's so much that's happening. So it's definitely a roller coaster. But also at this point, know that you're not alone on this journey. If you're feeling like you're doing, loop the loops, don't think that it's just you that's doing it. Most likely, you're actually going through it as well. And that's actually one thing I find through the Working Mum Village. You might do a post and you're like, oh, how am I feeling this? Or even recently I posted around return to work and around flexible working, and then people are going, yeah, we're having the challenges, we're having some advantages, and here we go. So it's what you think sometimes is what I said earlier around your mindset. You're not alone in actually what you're going through. So as I said, today is going to be a bit interactive. So hopefully you found some paper. But I want to actually question you as well and make you reflect on how you're feeling. So as I said today, it's obviously about, the overwhelm. But what part of this as well is, what are your thoughts on what's causing you the most stress and overwhelm? And, while I'm talking through this slide, just write it down, write what's positive, what's constructive, what's causing you in your life at the moment the most stress and overwhelm. Getting it out of the paper and getting out of your head and onto paper actually does have scientific research to show that it is actually there. Getting it physically down. So another way of doing this on a regular basis is through journaling and actually really helping you through this. So feel free to put into the chat box as well about, what's that big overwhelm. And I know it, and when as part of, this masterclass of asking a lot of people the questions of joining, it is generally about the time, the exhaustion, the mental load is, it's like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? So feel free to put into the chat. Maisie, 2 kids from Sydney, 8 and 4. Love that to meet you. And Charlotte, 2 kids, 8 and 4 as well. Yes, fantastic. So lovely. Love to hear as well. Like, what are your challenges at the moment? What's causing you the most stress and that? So put it down onto paper. And as I said, and if you there'll be a recording available after this, so you can always come back to it and ask yourself some of these questions. This isn't just for today. This is also something and a strategy that you can use on a regular basis. And also, once you've got those down there, not only just looking at the negative, but also the positive, but particularly those constructive parts, what are some tools and tips that you can then apply to actually reducing that overwhelm? And that's also what we're going to cover off today. Excuse me. Charlotte, the mental load, they are sick and they cannot go to school. Kids with special needs, so time consuming and costly. I could only imagine. Yes, definitely. I think sickness at the moment and, with childcare in school, there's so much that's going on and going around, as what you can hear from my voice. And it affects us in so many ways. And really, it is exhausting. But definitely know you're not alone. It's the joys of it all. Now, matrescence, I don't know how many of you have heard this term. You may have all be familiar with it, but it's something that I actually came across about 12 months ago. And I have to say, it's for me, it was quite enlightening that you often hear about, the term adolescence of, kids going and, journeying into that adulthood. But there's also then this term around the physical, emotional, hormonal, and social transition into becoming a mum. And this is becoming more and more the topic, it's more and more popular being mentioned. And the season of motherhood around matrescence can actually last 18 plus years. So when you think about it, you've got your oldest kid and then your youngest kid, that whole period of time, so 18, for me, it's probably going to last about 22, 23 years. It's a huge amount of time of this motherhood season, but I guess you never really stop becoming a mum. And so during this time and during this season of your life, think as well, and now take an opportunity to write down, how is it that you want to think, feel, and spend this time? And when someone, actually, I was interviewing actually two people I've spoken about this on the podcast, and it's, you have this like light bulb moment of like, oh my goodness, this is quite a big period of my time and my life. And so how do you want to spend this? And yes, there's different seasons. Obviously, your kids, like me at the moment, I'm in the trenches with a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. I know school's going to be a different phase again, and then, high school again on top of that. But how do you want to spend this time? How do you want to feel? And what kind of a life do you want to have, even as a family and things like that? So again, just another reflection for you on how you want to, consider that. Now, my secret number one to actually helping with the overwhelm is about being clear on your values, your purpose, and your why. For me, I think this is the foundation of everything in our lives, but I think also it can really help, life as a working mum as well. And I love Simon Sinek. I think, the concept about not what you do, but why, and is fantastic. And he uses it in a business sense, but I think really from a working mum's perspective, it can really help us in a number of ways. And we say what we do. So for example, we say we're working, we're a working mum. Sometimes we say how we're doing it. So you might say, look, I send my kids to childcare, I've got a cleaner, and share the mental load and things like that. But rarely do we say why we do it. So, for example, we may work to be role models for our kids. Like I said before, we may work for financial reasons. We may work for identity. We can work for a multitude of reasons. So, as well, one of these things, think about it from your perspective and take this opportunity as well to think, why do you work? What is it that you're working for? And, is it for your family? Is it for yourself? And I know that I work definitely because I actually weirdly want to after kids. For me, it's the thing that, gives me joy. Of actually doing something for myself, having my own identity. And I really, for me, definitely returning back into work after my first child, that's something that I really crave. Was something for me that I don't have a child necessarily attached to me. I'm also contributing to our family, so we can, go on family holidays, do house renovations and things like that. So for me, my why obviously is about my kids, but it's also about me personally and what I can do to contribute, and also be a role model. I've got 2 kids, so I am 2 boys, and I really want to be that role model for my children. So think about it as well, why you do what you do. And I have to say, by me defining what my why is and being clear on that, I have to say it's helped me really reduce my mum guilt, because I'm understanding why I'm doing it. And so, I've had my eldest son recently say to me, "Oh, can I go to kinder on a Friday?" I'm going, "But you don't usually go on a Friday." He goes, "No, but I just want to go and see my friends." And I'm like, why should I feel, why in the past, when I initially, when he was about 10 months old, he went to childcare for the first time, why do I should feel guilty about this? Like now he actually wants the social interaction and things like that. So it's little things that I think sometimes we're made to, just because of society, made to feel guilty, but when really, if we know what we're doing, why we're doing, we can just, as I said at the start, focus on what we can control and shut out all that other noise. And the importance of values as well. It really helps determine your priorities. So, for example, family. During COVID, my family and I, like my husband and I with the 2 kids, started eating together as a family. 5:30, 5:45 every night we would eat as a family. So now our priorities, now that I've returned to work and we're also going back into the office, it's about also making sure we're home and planning our lives and our work lives around how we can have family at that dinner at 5:30, 5:45 every night, because that's our priority. Our children eat better when we all eat together as a family, and that for us is important. Yes, I can have meetings either side of that, but that's our focus. That's one of our big priorities as a family each day. And also then think about how you want to live your life. As I said before, matrescence going through that season of 18 plus years. How do you want to live that period? And what are the characteristics and behaviors that motivate and influence your lives? So just something, these are here as well, some just little things to think about. And also the values help you serve as a guiding principle. So, for example, family time for us is a really big thing. So that for me is a guiding principle about my values, and actually then, having that there, and it's helping, make different decisions throughout your life. For example, also self-care for me is important, just being able to switch off. Even in about, in next week, I'm actually going away for the weekend with a group of girlfriends, because we just need to get away and not be mum for a weekend, but actually also reconnect as a friendship group. And I'm really looking forward to that. So for me, friendship, friends and things like that is another really big value. And also help who you are, like what's most important to you. If it's not important to you, don't spend time on it. So for example, and we'll get to this later, but family time, as I've said multiple times, is really important. So now we get a cleaner. And that 1 hour of having a cleaner once a fortnight has meant that we probably get back 3 to 4 hours every single week to fortnight as a family, because otherwise we'd be spent on the weekends cleaning or after work and things like that. So definitely it has really helped us knowing what's important to us, and then we're making sure that we're setting some of those boundaries and we're defining what's important to us as well. Maisie, you know how what I like about lockdown, family dinners and everything slowing down. Absolutely. Yes, it's so important. Karina, you know how I feel about this. Yes, definitely. Switching off and not being mum 24/7 is something I definitely relate to. So with this, the cleaning, sorry. Yes, cleaners are absolutely amazing. Now, write down the 3 to 5 things, or even just think about it, about what are those important things that are in your life at the moment. And also when you think about this as well, come back to your why. So what are those things that are most important in your life? Like, what are you just like, right, this is it, for example, family, friends, self-care, and things like that. So, and also using this, as what I said just before, as a guiding principle to doing what you're doing and making those key decisions. And if it's not a priority for you, and we'll get to this shortly, how can you remove it, silence it, or even outsource it? And then from here, what values are essential in your life? What values represent your primary way of being? And what are essential to supporting your inner self? And I think this is really the foundation component of being a working mum, about knowing yourself, knowing your why, because in that way, it helps you, give you the framework and also permission to say no to some other parts. Because you're like, look, this is not important. This isn't in my value set. This isn't what's going to, even help me. It's going to light me up or get me from A to B in terms of a career. So, here's some permissions to say no. And also here, there's four buckets around work, family, self-care, and life. And you've got 12 balls. And think about what your priorities are and where you would place each of the balls. And it doesn't have to be that you'd, put them in the bucket and they'd stay there. No, you can actually, just change them around each day, but it is dynamic. But just think about it, our priorities and things like that will change, but also where we want to put those balls and have that preference as well. Now, number 2, the secret number 2 is about outlining your processes and systems. Yes, in our work lives, we have a system in so many different ways. In my corporate world, I work for a large international company, and trust me, there is a process for absolutely everything. But also from our home lives, the more that we can, have some processes or have some clear systems, this can really help us free up some time to also what's value to you as well. And in the working mum life, there's so many things that people can see. They can probably see us doing the drop off, the pickups. We're constantly rushing around, and things like that. But what they don't necessarily always see is that us in the head of going through of all the different things that we need, what's for dinner, what's on this weekend, whose birthday is it, what social activities do we have? There's like the list is absolutely endless. But I also believe that you can have it all, but you just don't need to do it all. And so through this, you can definitely achieve it by asking for help, good communication, definitely with your tribe around you, and respect and value. Think about it from a work sense. Yes, all businesses operate because they can. And then do they do it all? No, the CEO doesn't do every function, or the managing director doesn't do everything. They outsource it. They get other people in to help them. They delegate. They definitely as well have good communication within their, most times, hopefully, have good communication within their teams. And that's what we also need from a home sense. So ask for help. Sometimes our partners or our husbands may not even be aware of what we're thinking, even from a mental load perspective. They may not even go, oh, the washing machine needs to go on, or the dishwasher, or something like that. I have to say, I'm actually guilty of it in my relationship, that I actually don't do any of the laundry. My husband's actually told me, you don't do it that great, and I'm like, that's fine. I do other parts to help our family function. So when it comes down to planning what needs to be washed and when, I've got no idea. But like, for example, yesterday I was working from home. He was in the office and he said, look, can you put the towels on? Everything's all ready to go. All you have to do is literally press the button. And that's all I had to do. So he actually asked for help about, putting the laundry on. He communicated it. And at the end, as an end result, we had the towels cleaned. I may have forgotten to put them out to the very end of the day, but at least they were washed. So it's just like that. We can ask for help and definitely part. And I know there's so many parts of our lives, particularly when we become a mum, we think that we need to do it all. Oh, no, I've got all these tasks, and asking for help is sometimes seen as a weakness, but actually I see asking for help is actually a strength. And so and even if by opening as well our opportunity to this, we can actually receive more help by saying yes and accepting it. But it's if you say no to help to someone, and I'm sure if you've had this experience in the past, if you've asked someone, do you need any help? And they say no, you're not as inclined to ask for her, to offer up help again to that particular person. But if you've had someone that said yes, like, oh, can I get your help? You're more likely to actually help them out. And so then you'll probably ask them again. And one thing as well, when you're giving or receiving help, respecting and valuing that is also a really big part. Now as well, on this, another activity, as I said, was going to be interactive based on your values, your purpose, and your why. What areas do you want to improve the most? So for example, it could be, as someone said, the mental load. It could be communication with your partner or something like that. But think about as well, go back to what you thought about when you thought that you were most overwhelmed. What is it that one area that you want to go, I would love to just, improve X. And think about that, about what is that area, and feel free to put it into the chat as well about what area you really want to improve. Now, the demands of day-to-day life can be draining enough when you only have yourself to consider. Life pre-kids at times really certainly did seem easy. Add in a partner or kids, and you can definitely feeling yourself overwhelmed by the weight of burden. The mental load, also called cognitive labor, refers to the invisible and non-tangible tasks involved in running a household. Sorry, Maisie, did you want to say something? Sorry, just on mute.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm trying to tap and I'm getting messages popping up and all that. So I'm just gonna put a response in the chat.
No problem
at all.
Asked
about like what you want to improve. So I'll let you carry on with the flow. Sorry about that.
That's all right, no problems. So if mental load is definitely one of the biggest things as well involved in running the household. One thing as well here, what you can do is conduct what I call a mental load audit. The first part is about reviewing all the tasks that you and your partner do that go towards your family operations. So I've actually got, and I'll be including this as the in the thank you email out for attending, a link to the mental load audit. And so here you can actually download, I've outlined, all the tasks that I can think of around the family. And then here, once you've got the tasks, review them all, reflect, sit down with your partner to discuss what you may want to keep doing, what you want to swap doing, and what do you want to stop doing. So for example, stop can also mean outsourcing. So for example, my husband and I said, right, we want to stop doing, that regular clean. And so what we then did was we agreed to then get a cleaner. And that really then helped us from a family perspective. And I have to say, the first time I had a cleaner, I could literally feel that emotional energy just releasing from me. And then from there, just sit down with your partner and just go through this. Definitely sit down when you're free from, from the kids. Probably do it after they've gone to bed. Also, that you're both in the right frame of mind, because some of the topics that you're probably going to go through with that mental load audit and discussing this can at times be quite emotional. And I've also done a podcast with a lady by the name of Sally Ann, who's a relationship coach. And she, said exactly the same thing about making sure you're actually doing this in the right frame of mind, because it can, as I said, be quite emotional. And then just sit down and just look at, right, I'm agreeing to keep doing this. What about we swap doing this? And it's also a good way to have a fact-based discussion of going, oh my goodness, I'm doing 99% of all this. How about we try and, even it up a little bit? And then from there, reassess. I suggest, just like a normal performance review or, performance appraisal, review it twice a year, maybe along with, say, the family budget. It's something my husband and I recently talked about with all the interest rates going up. We need a better family budget. We need to review it a little bit more. And then also review your family needs. So things change, school changes, different lifestyle changes and things like that. So review your family needs, and then also reassess your mental load. And then so review the activities, reflect on who's doing what, and then reassess it. Maisie, be more fun and be playful with the kids, more dates with hubby. Yes, what a great way to improve. I love it. That's so good. And and as Charlotte says, love it, Maisie, makes worth life living. And it really does. It comes back to your why and your values around, spending time with the kids, spending time with your partner, and things like that. And what systems and processes can you implement in your household? So for example, do you have a weekly meal plan? Do you have a shared email and calendar? For me, a shared email and calendar was a life-changing experience with my husband. Like, it was so good because we were double booking things. We even had this before we were married, and it was like, right, we're overbooking things, and I'm known as the social secretary. So then he would go, right, are we free on this weekend, or what can we do? And it's been fantastic. So then that way he can also then take ownership, see what's going on, and plan around. And also when we're getting emails, through childcare or anything that's relating to the family, it both comes through to our joint email. And so then that way we know what's happening. And it's not just on me to forward him emails and vice versa, because things like that, no doubt, would probably get missed. And finding time as well for self-care. We can't forget to fill our cup, because if we're running on an empty cup, it's no good at all. Also, do you have a laundry schedule? What processes around, say, early childhood education, or who's also going to be looking after your kids? That's definitely a big consideration. As I said earlier, I definitely, with childcare with my children, they learn so much, they get so much out of it, also really well fed, more so than I would probably do with them at home. And I think we definitely enjoy the times that we have together a little bit more, because we're actually, we're going off, we're filling our cups elsewhere, and we're coming back together to have that time. Also, think about the different things that you can outsource, cleaners, gardeners, ironing, even just home help and tax. We all outsource so many different things. Just like in a corporate perspective, what can we do for ourselves? And then also between good communication, between drop off and pick up schedules, online shopping, I know it's definitely become more and more popular. And then also flexible work arrangements. What can you negotiate with your employer? Do you have to be in the office 3 to 5, or how many days the whole time, 100% time you work? Can you work from home for a little bit, or even have different start and finish times? You name it. There's a whole multitude of opportunities around flexible work arrangements. And as I said, at the start around, knowing your why also really helps with saying no. And so really by defining your values, what's important to you and your family. So for example, Maisie, spending time with kids and having those dates with hubby. If you're like, right, that's what's important to me, you can then say no to other parts. So if work said, right, we need you to go to this event on Thursday night, and you'd already agreed to spend that time with hubby, you can be like, well, no, this is our time. So it's okay to say no. Ironing, what's that? Definitely. Ironing is a torture. I hate ironing as well. That's why I've actually choose a lot of clothes that don't need to be ironed. And certainly my husband has a lot of work shirts and he does all his own ironing. And so, yeah, and also at the moment, it's sometimes as well between that work-life harmony, people say, work's encroaching on life and life's encroaching on work at times as well. And well, what can you then look at those boundaries? What do you need to say no to? So for example, I actually block out my calendar between 5:30 and 7 every night, and say, don't contact me. You can send me an email, but don't set a meeting. And I then say, you can meet with me after it, or you can meet with me before. But between 5:30 and 7 is family time. And so I'm not taking any meetings. And, I just set those boundaries. It can also be mentally, no, I'm not going to turn the computer on after a certain time and things like that. Yes, it does take a bit of self-discipline, but also when you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling like the lines aren't, that they're really blurred, have a look at what your boundaries are. Are you saying no? And yes, the first couple of times it can be really, really hard, but it does get easier, and also it'll help you with like that overwhelm. So if that's one of the biggest parts at the moment of just like, oh my goodness, it's just all becoming too much, look at where you need to improve those boundaries as well. And yet, love the boundaries, especially around family. I'm a big one as well. It's even, something I often will say is, on our tombstones, what's going to be there? You worked 60 to 100 hours a week for what? You were really good at work life, but not so much at life itself. So I really want to be known, and my kids to have the memory of me, of, mum and what I've been able to do in their lives and things like that. And yes, I think you can have both of being working, as a working mum, but it also comes back down to the boundaries and understanding our why. Now, secret number 3 is about conducting your own symphony. Maisie, sometimes setting that mental boundaries are a challenge. Being present, they are definitely a challenge. And even just checking your work phone or something like that, it can be really a real challenge as well. And I'm sure I could do a whole other podcast or masterclass on that as well. But definitely those mental boundaries are certainly a challenge. But I guess it also comes back to what's and why, and creating those boundaries and understanding yourself. And so I also think that the North Star to achieve harmony across key areas is being the CEO in your life. And that's really as well about combining home, work, and self. And I'm a big believer on, I think I've skipped the slide. I've actually hear a lot about work-life balance. And I know that the balance is going to be different for each. It's comparing apples with oranges. But I also think that we've got, as working mums, we've got so many different elements, and it's more like we're the conductor of our own symphony. And so we have, all the different parts that we're actually needing to work together, to really essentially sing off the same song sheet, hopefully a little bit in tune. And so they're all working together in a harmonious way. So that's why I often will say that being a working mum, we're like the conductor, and trying to get it all parts working together. So, ideally, as what you said earlier, Charlotte, like, not having sick kids, trying to get childcare lined up, work lined up, and things like that. So we're trying to massage it, but also be the conductor at the front and directing how we want to live and be the CEO of our lives. Another big part as well is about managing our mindset. I don't know about you, but sometimes I can feel like I'm on top of the world. I could, climb Mount Everest because of the way that I'm feeling, and I've got the confidence, and my mindset is really positive and it's a growth mindset. But then at the same time, you can actually go, oh, how am I going to do this? I'm defeated. I can't do it. Is it all worth it? And things like that. Our mindset, I think, sometimes can be our biggest strength, but then also our biggest weakness. And I think some of that also comes relating back into, imposter syndrome. How do we view ourselves? And, imposter syndrome is the belief that we don't have what it takes, that we're a fraud. How many times have you said, oh, I'll just fake it till we make it? And I've said that so many times in the past, but I've actually stopped saying it because it's actually devaluing myself. And no, we've all got our unique skill set. We've all bring something unique to our roles. We've no doubt been doing these roles for a number of years. But if we haven't, we've even had career changes. You've still got a baseline of skills that you can bring into absolutely any role. And this day and age, it really shows how much is transferable. So you can actually do it. But again, it's about our mindset on how we go. And about doing it. And a big part about overcoming our imposter syndrome and also there is about knowing your strengths. So, as you're doing, say, a why exercise, also write down, and there's, what are your top 5 to 10 strengths? And you can do this even personally or even from a work sense. And there are free strengths assessments that you can get out there, like the IA strengths assessments. And I recently ran a masterclass on this inside the Working Mama Village. But knowing your strengths can really impact your confidence in such a big way. And strengths are just like a bit of a muscle, keep on using them. And if you're having a bit of an average day, so if your mindset's not feeling great, you're like, oh, how am I going to do something? Think about what strengths you could and what strength muscles you could use on that day to give you some extra confidence if you're feeling a bit down. So for example, writing a great email or running something, or just find out what you do really well and then do that on a day that maybe you're not feeling so great. And as well, having a growth mindset. There's that, the term around the fixed and the growth mindset. Look for abundance, look for opportunity. And that'll certainly help you as well. And having a growth mindset is such a powerful tool. And one thing as well is that knowing everyone's also scared often, and I think it's like the more senior you go in an organization, everyone thinks you've always got to have all the answers. But often you don't. And it's just like our kids may look up to us and go, all right, mum, what are we doing now? And you're thinking in your head, I don't know. Or you're making, in those situations where you're trying to not show your emotions to your kids because you're also wanting them to, feel confident in themselves. No doubt you're internalizing it, but just like in a work situation, everyone's also scared as well. Just like being a working mum, we're all figuring it out together. Everyone has a unique journey, but also everyone's probably unsure at different times as well. Do the inner work is what I've already been saying about knowing your why, and also what makes you unique. What brings you, what are your unique skills that you bring into your role and things like that from a work sense. So once you get clear on these, and as I said, like a lot of this reflection work, I really think is a big foundation layer. And if you're clear on who you are, what makes you unique, it's going to really help you, in so many different ways and give you clarity and confidence as a working mum. And definitely as well, it takes a big village to raise a family. Yes, we don't live in villages like we used to, but there's a whole multitude of different people that help you raise a family. And it's also using the different levers in your life about, leveraging that village at different points. Now, just to recap. So secret number 1 was about being clear on your values, your purpose, and your why. Secret number 2 was about outlining your processes, your systems. And then number 3 was about conducting a symphony. And a big part of that is definitely as well as about your mindset and your confidence, and also definitely overcoming your imposter syndrome. And then we talk about goals, and yes, I know, making them smart and things like that as well. Maisie, totally agree. It takes a village. Yes, it definitely does. I'd be lost without my village. Grow what matters, one step at a time, and little by little, and definitely over time, your steps will add up. So out of today, there might be different things that have come into your mind, but, break it down into small little bits. For, one day, think about your why, next day, think about maybe what you could, systemize or process or even outsource and things like that. And, doing little things over time, they're going to add up and you'll actually be nailing it as a working mum. So out of today as well, think about what are you going to stop doing? It could be actually saying no to something. What are you going to start doing? It could be, for example, you might start defining your why or living by your values, or actually start saying no to more things? What are you going to keep doing? So, for example, if you've already got a cleaner, I'm sure you're going to keep that cleaner. But think about as well, out of today, from what we've learned, though, the three secrets that I've given you, with a whole lot of different ideas underneath it and some of those reflection tools. What are you going to stop doing? What are you going to start doing? And what are you going to keep doing? And think about, even put into the chat, feel free to, love to hear what your takeaways are. From here, it's a big part about what are you going to stop doing, start doing, and keep doing. So what have we covered today? We've covered 3 secrets to juggling work and mum life without the overwhelm, with some tangible and actionable takeaways, with also a couple of new tips and strategies to help you thrive as a working mum. Now, I've got a question for you. Would you like some more? And I think you are amazing. And I believe that all you need is the right support, community, and resources to help you thrive. And how many times have you sat at your computer and actually gone, you just Googled something? Maybe, how can I manage the mental load? How can I manage up at work, or overcome imposter syndrome, or something like that? I'm sure you've navigated it and you've Googled 100 million times, like I have. And certainly as well, Googling at 2 a.m. in the morning, trying to find out things with my kids. So definitely as well, Google is sometimes can be our best friend, can also be our worst nightmare as you go down that black rabbit hole. And I really want to see you thrive, not just survive, as a working mum. So what I'd like to introduce you to is the Working Mama Village, to help you build the skills, confidence, and knowledge, also connect with like-minded women, and also certainly reduce the overwhelm. This is all done through live and on-demand masterclasses just like this, with leading topic experts to give you skills and knowledge and support you as a working mum. So for the next few months, we've got brand stylists, we've got leadership experts, we have mindset experts that are all coming in and giving you amazing skills and confidence and knowledge. You've got the opportunity to connect with like-minded mums. So, as we say, it can be quite isolating. This is then the village to help you and support you. And we really want to help you thrive. And definitely the overwhelm. So reduce that need to Google, and actually having a one-stop shop library with resources and masterclasses on demand. So if you're like, oh, how can I actually go through a masterclass to, really help me define my why and my purpose and my values? Already done, tick. We've got one with Lisa that's already there. So, how can I get better at my life admin and mental load? Tick. We've actually done that with life admin, and they've actually released a book subsequently. So there's different things that can really help you within the Working Mama Village. So it's definitely perfect if you're lacking the resources from your employer to support you. So I know there's a lot of employer tools out there for the corporates, but definitely if you're in a smaller organization, there's less around. You're feeling unsupported from your employer, you don't have a good supportive village around you to help you reach your professional as well as your personal goals, and you're lacking in confidence potentially, and maybe even you're questioning yourself if you can still have it all. So each month, as I said, we have monthly live and on-demand masterclasses, bi-monthly networking calls. These are held both during the day and an evening. You get free access to the Return with Confidence Return to Work course, the library of masterclasses, the Facebook group and networking, and certainly as well the onboarding call when you first join. Each month, this is $20 a month, and then there's also an annual cost if you want to pay that way. Otherwise, at the moment, we've got a bonus. So if you join up for 12 months, you'll actually get the Emma McQueen book. I just had it with me, which is absolutely fantastic. Emma McQueen's a leadership and business coach. And then also you can join using the code MASTER15, which brings it down to $14.16 a month, which is an absolute bargain when you're getting all this coaching and support in the back end to really help you thrive as a working mum. So I'll be emailing out today a link, but if you wanted to as well, you can actually go to workingmama.com.au and then just click on the membership tab, and you can also join there as well. So that's the end of what I wanted to share with you today. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or feedback that you wanted to ask? Feel free to write it into the comments. And otherwise as well, I'd love to connect with you if I'm not already. I'm on Instagram at Working Mama Community. I'm also on LinkedIn, search for Working Mama, or you can also search for Karina O'Brien and you'll no doubt find me. And I've also got the Working Mama podcast. So it's available on all podcast platforms, say Apple, Spotify, you name it. And just search for Working Mama. And there's, as I said, over 70 different episodes with a range of topic experts. And I have to say, I absolutely love putting together the podcast and things like that. So yes, Maisie, I like drawing on strengths on a bad day. Definitely. Actually, even a friend told me recently what she does is actually dress her daughter up in a nice outfit if her, daughter's having a bad day or something like that. So it actually makes her look in a positive light. So I've actually taken that sometimes if I'm feeling a bit average myself, I'm actually going to put on nicer clothes to actually try and lighten it up. So yeah, definitely drawing on your strengths as a bad day is a good one. So I also want to leave you with this quote: parenting and working is one of the biggest conflicts I've experienced. Every bit of me wants to be with you, but equally does not want to lose me in the process. I just want you to know that it was for something. I don't want it all, but this is my something. Well, you are my everything. This is Anna Whitehouse, also known as Mother Puka, who does a lot of advocacy and work in the UK around flexi work. So yeah, that's what I wanted to go through with you today. And I hope you've got something out of it. Really think about as well, what are you going to stop, start, keep? So there is a recording that'll be available later today, and I'll email that out, as well as all the links. And also, if you want to join the Working Mama Village, I would love to have you. And I hope you've enjoyed this session and got something out of it. And really hope that you enjoy the day. And that, as I said, if you've got any questions, feel free to, you can either contact me directly, send me a DM, and I'll end the recording there. So thank you so much, and have a great day.